on, everybody? Sorry, I'm taking a little drive, trying to go to my work. I don't think Squid Games is good for Christians to watch. Another thing I would say is cheap horror. If you want a very good synopsis of it, and spoilers, sure, spoilers. But Christians, I say don't watch it. I'll even give you the ending. The protagonist wins. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. It's not like everybody dies because the protagonist had to be the most gruesomest dude. He was actually one of the nicer ones. And again, it's this push and pull on humanity about how you feel about, okay, if you got a problem, which is your debt, and again, that's what it's about. These people in debt, they leave the first games realizing what the heck happened. They have to sign NDAs, and then they are constantly giving these invitations, constantly. And they already had to win this game from this guy to get tempted. It's really similar to a cult. They give you a little bit, and they show you how great it is, by giving them just something like a hit, like drugs. And then they bring them back in here and say, and then they have the money suspended over their heads. It's like a carrot and stick, right? But the carrot is $1 billion or something, $1 billion or something. So hey, don't you want this money? And then they have the money through this chute just pour down into this piggy bank, and then the money slowly grows as the games continue, and because people's lives are worth the money. I mean, have an equivalency of a certain value of the money. So every time someone dies, the money increases, and the money pot increases, and it just builds further temptation. The money's literally over your head, so you're like, oh man, I could get this money, if I scheme or do whatever, if I win these games. And again, I'm like, no one ever told them, yo, if you guys compete in these teams, you all could get this money, this bread, bro. It's never like that. It's never like that. It's usually you guys compete in these teams. Eventually, you guys are gonna have to compete against each other. And there's only one winner. That's really it. There's one winner. One person getting out of this. That's why I didn't believe one of those aspects of the Saw movies. But that's another topic. But yeah, the only one guy gets out of it alive. And some people kill themselves. Some people die from other people because they scheme. They commit violence. Other people. Die from another thing because there's a B plot in there, so there's like organ harvesting for it's a little scheming business on the side. If you reveal your face, you die. The protagonist has a brother who's supposed to be the pride of his hometown. He's in there, but he has debt. He has crippling debt. And I guarantee you, it's from those, I forget, it's a term, holding, I don't know, I forget, but there's a term for, it's essentially a loan, right? It's a loan to pay to essentially, from these people, and again, I'm forgetting what the term is in stocks, but it's a term for people who give you money, and you're supposed to essentially, you got to pay them back at a certain real short amount of time, and it's supposed to be for you to use in the stock market so that you can hopefully get some difference, some profit off of it, and then give it back to them. I don't think they pay interest. I don't think so, but yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's how he lost his money. Because if you're smart and you're in there, you're not gonna cripple your debt like that. As far as I can tell, I mean, unless you knew you was okay with losing that amount of money, you wouldn't sit here and be like, yo, I need some money. Can I get some money from you? Nah. And so, and there was an Indian dude, in this Korean K-drama, K-horror, whatever you want to call it, K-Def's games. Yeah, they had this Indian dude, and he was like, yo, he just seems so innocent, such an innocent guy, But again, I couldn't tell you. It probably has to do with a nod of the immigration in Korea, how people can take advantage of them, which one of the people did take advantage of him. The protagonist's brother took advantage of him, Eventually, it wasn't like he was a schemer from the start. He was nice, he was very kind, and then eventually it's like what the Bible say about selfish people. Don't eat the bread of a selfish person, otherwise you're gonna have to re-up eventually. You know, you got to vomit up the bread you ate. So you're gonna have to give back what you was owing this guy. And that's eventually what happened. It wasn't like he was scheming. It was just like the dude's life was on the line. The foreigner dude was gonna win, and he was like, he schemed him. You know, yo. And then Play did his bogus thing about, yo, you can't just have your hand. You can't just have your this bag of marbles in your hand, B. You know, let me work out something. And he did it so convoluted. I didn't know what the heck he was doing. Like, and it sucks because again, the dude had a language barrier. The dude looked young, but he had a language barrier. That was just the biggest issue. And I'm like, and again, maybe the dude, he speaks he speaks Korean, so you know, he probably is playing a character, I'm thinking. But he played the aloof foreigner, the naive foreigner, and he got taken advantage of eventually. You know. And he said he got a cripple weak hand or something like that. So, you know, the brother helped him out a whole lot. Let's just say that. The dude's been scheming for, like, you learn throughout the series that the dude's been scheming. He's been scheming. You know, he didn't help his brother out sometimes. And then the brother had to strategize to win. And then he forgives him and stuff like that. Just let it go. But he thought about it. It showed in the flashback. He was like, yo, this dude was going to tell me something. And he just refrained. He was like, nah, I'm good. You know what? Nothing. You good, bro. And he's like, yo, he was really going to let me go out like that. You know? And it just showed, like, you know, his brother's psychology as it slowly deteriorates. Well, his moral compass deteriorates. As games progress, you know? Dude literally lead a dude to die in one of the games. He's, you know. And then I thought, man, it was so weird to me because they said, like, one of the front man, he's pretty much the host. He was like, yo, this is a place where everybody's not discriminated against. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're lying. Because when one of the games, this dude was a glass maker, and then the VIPs got upset. Oh man, he got an itch. I'm like, no, he has a profession, bro. I'm like, it's not his fault. He happened to learn about glass, and then the games involve glass, and the dude can figure it out. What are you talking about? And then they're like, yo, all right, let's switch up the games. You know, I'm like, it's really not his fault. Another thing. I mean, sorry, I was thinking about something else. I was honestly thinking political stuff. But it sucks, man. It really has this mentality that, like, yo, they were just playing around with this guy. Like, yo, we just, you know, we did it for the fun of it. You just playing around with your lives with this debt stuff for the fun of it. And you guys weren't forced to be here. I'm like, you're right. You threw a bunch of crippling debt folks in a group, and you said, hey, suspending heavy pounds of cash, not only money that could save their debt, that could take care of their debt easily, but just an exorbitant amount of debt. Exorbitant amount of money, prize money. Like, this would probably pay off their debt 10 times over with the amount that was suspended over their heads. I'm like, stop, don't hide your hands now as if, oh yeah, man, I ain't had nothing to do with this. I'm like, you had all the things to do with it. You set it up. You, like the old man and his friends, they put the money up, had people watch it, had the facilities. I'm like, they had forklifts to take the bodies away. They had incinerators to burn the bodies when the participants died. You know, they got suits. They got cooking things where they cook. I don't know. They gave them lunch boxes and stuff like that, like, you know, stuff to eat out of. You mean out of all this stuff, y'all had your hands. We didn't force you guys. I mean, it's not like we set up everything so that you can participate, can't survive there, can't live there for several days, set it up where people have to die for it, didn't give enough food, but gave just enough for people to what, for each player? Sure, that's what they said, but I'm like, guarantee it wasn't gonna really be enough. It wasn't, not really. They gave them a soda and an egg after using their adrenaline, cortisol flowing through their body. You're telling me they just like, yo, here's a little bit, here's some ground beef. Like, that's not really enough at all, bro. So they're saying like, yo, this is enough, you good with that? No. So they was really trash from the start. I'm like, you can't hide your hands just because you're rich. You know, it reminds me of Jeffrey Epstein. He, you know, dude literally had he tried to give these poor people a option, you know. Gave these poor people an option. But the dude legit had a sex pyramid scheme. He was like, yo, you helped me out by giving me a back rub or whatever, simple thing at first, and then you share this with your friends, and I'll give them money, and you share those with your friends. And the dude eventually he was getting on with minors, dog. Like, this dude was a scummy, shoddy person too. I hear, and he knew it. He could easily say with himself and his weak moral conscience, hey, yo, I didn't force them to be here. I just flashed money at poor people and expected them not to do anything. Are you serious? Dang, man, because with cause and effect, bro. It's not like you work business practices and your practices work. They just work, huh? You just happen to get rich. If people have that simplistic worldview about things, no wonder their moral conscience is weak. Because they think, oh yeah, it's cause and effect. You do one thing, the other thing happens. I'm supposed to be rich. I did what the cause and effect can call. I'm like, whatever, bro. Whatever. I'm like, you believe what you want to justify these actions. I'm like, it's not really your fault. I mean, it's not anybody's fault that you became exorbitantly rich and just lost your purpose, your zest for life, because you became so rich that everything was at your disposal. It wasn't your fault, right? Or you could give that money away and help people out. Develop yourself a purpose. You know, being a philanthropist, not just a philanthropist, humanist, but helping people out. You know, people love a handout, but at the same time, you could build a company, a mentorship, helping people learn how to fix things. It reminds me of I forgot his name, but he's a guy. What's his name? Brian Gregg. He used to make these facilities, these centers for young kids in these poor neighborhoods. I keep forgetting the dude's name. And he built these facilities, and he said that gave him the most joy, because as I understand, you give and you do receive. I'm like, these super rich dudes act like, well, let me just live selfishly and there's no repercussions. I'm like, there's always going to be a repercussion of living selfish. And eventually, there you have it. These rich folks got no zest for life now. They just, I don't know how to live anymore. But they don't want to give up their riches. I think that's why Jesus was like, in order to live, you got to give up, you know. Just like you got to change, you know. You got to die to the old self and become a new person. You have to change that old person. Yeah. It's, I guess I could say it's tragic. It's real sad, you know. Because people, they do too much. But yeah, Christians, I just say be careful. If you're gonna watch it, be careful. You know, it's a lot of death. It's a whole lot of betrayal. It's a whole lot of it. It shows like this that just like The Purge, it's designed to kind of have you deeply question humanity. And it's like, dang, man, if these scenarios is what drive people over the edge, I wonder what's really worth it with people. You know, people will trip you up at the slightest. Excuse me. If they're in a bad circumstance and at the slightest inconvenience, you know, they'll screw you over. It really does it does set up a recipe for you know, disaster. Set up a recipe for not trusting folks, you know. and they had a woman from young lady from North Korea. Had a lady she killed her dad because her dad killed her mom, and he was a pastor, so religion just really wasn't sitting well with her. There's a religious dude, a Christian dude. I guess he's a Christian dude. He reminded me of when non-believers tell the media about Christian or religious people, and they just have this weird perception of religious people, and it come off to me as cringe because it come off as real inaccurate. They just start making up whatever makes sense to them. I seen it at Alice in Borderland. They said the same thing. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It's just making up stuff, And I'm like, at least Korea has a high percentage of Christians there. Japan don't even know what the heck they talking about sometimes. They just make up stuff. Just loosely tied to like Catholicism, typically. And I'm just like, yo, what the heck are they talking about? I had to, you know what? Forgive me. I'm finished. Squid Games, I just don't think it's morally healthy for somebody to watch. That's all I think. It's not really healthy to watch. I'd say you shouldn't watch it. Just like all these other ones, most of the people die. If not, everybody die. If not, the protagonist dies. The only thing I was really pressed about was Gantz, and that was because the old enemy Gantz, because the protagonists didn't have plot armor to protect themselves from these atrocities, these disasters. And so it was like, okay, what the heck is really going on? Who's really winning in here? If the protagonist is not protected, then who's protected? So yeah, that's why I just wasn't interested. You think from the Hunger Games that whatever her name is, Katniss Evergreen, that she was gonna be she was gonna die in these games? Anybody thought that? I didn't. I seen her in the trailer and in the next movie. I'm like, she's gonna survive. I don't know who else is gonna survive and live, but she's gonna survive. But yeah, it'd be real hard pressed to be like, and that I'm sorry, I don't like these series, these games, things, whatever. It's because they play on your hopes, because you wonder, like, are they gonna get out of this? And then if they have one person who finally survives, and then I've seen too many to count to be like, to see one of the winners, they continue the games, they say it's wrong. I'm like, obviously these games are wrong. You could look at these games, you could watch the first episode and be like, this stuff is shoddy, I can't watch this. Unless your conscience just isn't like that, then you can be like, oh, this is interesting, what could happen, But again, you could have both aspects to be like, it's wrong, but I want to see what happens. We do it all the time with movies, But when we see Die Hard and Bruce Willis kills off 50 million dudes, oh man, that's wrong, but I want to see what happens. I'm like, yeah, of course it's wrong, but I want to see what happens, When we see all these action heroes, see Indiana Jones kick off Nazis, he's still killing folks. He's just killing off folks with bad belief systems. He's a murderer. He's literally killing people. They just happen to be Nazis. So I'm like, just if you run that home and you say, oh, it has to be goofy to suspend your disbelief, be like, so that you can have the understanding, be like, oh, this ain't real. Yeah, great. It ain't real. This is all acting. Indiana Jones is not in a high-speed chase kicking off Nazis off trucks. He's not doing none of that. But like, yeah, sometimes when we make these things, these aspects to humanity so real, and again, yeah, we're supposed to know they're fake, but man, sometimes they just aren't. They're being portrayed so realistically that I think it's just damaging to the psyche, because mentally speaking, I think I'm gonna just go. Sorry, mentally speaking, your mind and your thoughts, your mind and your brain and the way you perceive information only has a certain threshold. When you pass the threshold, you'll reach the uncanny valley. This seems weird in your mind, and you'll have eventually aspects in your mind where you'll have a hard time distinguishing truth from reality. And I'm like, if we ever get to that point with it in my generation or the next generation or whatever, where we'll transcend that aspect of reality, it really makes me wonder about the moral implications, because we already have technology that portrays, if you talk about, what's his name, Thrill Seeker or something like that. We have technology. It might be $700 or $8,000 but like, you got technology that's so clear and defined, just like with the Mortal Kombat games, where they're like, some of the developers who were making this, as they were watching, I don't know if they were watching snuff films or just dead bodies or something like that, they had to kind of take a break or take a hiatus or something like that, because they were being exposed to dead bodies, to cadavers and carcasses. I think I could be wrong about the last part, but I'm pretty sure they were exposed to like carnage like that, and they had to sit it out because of their moral conscience, or because of their conscience, or awakened conscience or something like that. And I'm like, if actual game developers can't handle their own content that they're dishing out to their consumers, that should tell you a lot. You say, no, bro, I can handle it. Sure you can. But eventually, we'll get to the point where we'll say, dang, why did you make something like that? This is terrible to make. And I'm not talking about the game hatred. That was meant as a weird parody to show, hey, you think the games we make are vicious and savage? We'll give you a game that's intentionally made to be vicious and savage. And they made hatred. A school shooter game, pretty much. I'm sorry, a mall shooter game. Either way, it's still a bad shooter game. In the same way people had to give disclaimers on that Call of Duty game, the remake, about, hey, this guy's gonna actually shoot up an airport. Well, just let you know, it's actually sensitive information. Like, yeah, it sure is. But you don't have a choice in the game. You don't have a choice. You have to sit here and be like, okay, I have to do this. So, what are you talking about? Again, sometimes I think they have their hands sometimes. So, but that's all I got. This 22 minutes of me rambling. Squid Games just isn't a healthy way to watch any content. It's popular, I get it, but if you need spoilers, I'll just give them to you, because it's not worth it exposing yourself to about 8 to 10 episodes worth of people dying, people showing betrayal at one another. It's like war. It's not really a natural occurrence for you to sit here and pit each other and in this death arena with people constantly taking each other's lives, or people scheming against each other. People don't have a sense of trust. You go into a mall or something, or you go into a dating scene, there's a sense of hesitancy, and then when you meet somebody, you slowly build trust, like a friendship, like somebody, your lover or whatever. It's not normal to pit people in these scenarios, or even watch scenarios where you have to watch constant carnage like that. It's just, that's not normal. I don't think it's normal, nor do I think it's healthy to watch. So that's it. That's all I got. You don't need to watch Squid Games. If you want spoilers, I'll give you spoilers. It's just not that. It's not worth it.